her and Trevor eventually duke it out to the death with or without help from the rest of his teammates doesn't really matter, or does not really matter. Uh, what matters is that Trevor would end up killing her if they did duke it out once and for all. It's the opposite of John's semblance. Exactly. It's the exact opposite of John's semblance. Instead of enhancing and strengthening your aura, it's interrupting it's disrupting, invading, and weakening it. It's like literally poisoning your aura just through contact. She grazes you with a scythe, suddenly where she's grazed hurts like a bitch, and is now a weak point for her to exploit. But of course, the downside being that because semblances in my fanfics, the character you said you had similar semblance to Trevor's is also similar to John's. Cool, cool. Oh, because it's literally. That's cool. The thing about semblances is they're heavily reliant on personalities, right? So if Ursula has a redemption arc and comes to realize that not all humanity is bad, she loses the drive to hurt humanity as a whole. And as a result, her semblance would start to weaken and eventually fizzle out and stop working entirely. And that is one of the arcs I had in mind, is that, like, she realizes her semblance doesn't work. She can't do her semblance anymore. She almost dies, but then a nurse friend that she has, when under the guise of Rosie, finds her and, like, calms them down and shit. And like with this potential love interest uh, of another coworker that doesn't, it's simple, but you'd call it disruption. I don't think Ursula really cares to give it a name. uh, I think naming it is something that Ursula doesn't really think about. She doesn't think about things like naming her scythes. She doesn't think about things like naming her semblance, just how you'd refer to it as. Fair. Or like invasion or whatever, or aura invasion or something. I don't know. But like I said, a redemption arc could be that she eventually comes clean to Trevor and, like, without outright helping him, helps him, or without outright breaking her oaths, finds a way to guide Trevor to the person leading the cult with all the promised control bullshit. There's a couple of ways that could end up. It could end up with, like, a lot of hunters and huntresses fighting people and each other, finding loopholes in the oaths. Yeah, there could be a lot of that. It could be working with the policemen, since in the series of Ruby, I swear to fucking God, not a single fucking police officer shows up after episode 2. So another huge part of this fanfic could be that, like, it is what the police are fucking doing while the White Fang is doing other bullshit. The police are hyper fixating on this horrific group of people that torture people to death and shit, and kidnap children and shit, that they don't care about White Fang stealing fucking uh, dust. People steal dust all the time. It's fucking dust. Who cares? People's children are being kidnapped. We need to take down those people, you know? Like, it's a part of it is also like that kind of thing. Like, it's not meant to disrupt the main story of Ruby. It's meant to kind of reside in the background, if that makes any sense. So, like, key events in Ruby, like uh, the uh, the invasion of Grimm towards the end of volumes 1 or 2, I forget which one it was, where the train blows up and a bunch of Grimm gets in the city. That happens in this story, and it's like a key moment. It's a key moment where the people in Trevor's team realize that he's schizophrenic because he's attacking Grimm, but he's also attacking non-existent Grimm. And as they're like guiding him through the city to try and get him towards where the actual threat is, he's like panicking because he's seeing Grimm attacking people all over, and they're like, no, the Grimm haven't gotten this far into the city yet. There's no Grimm here. And they're realizing that Trevor's schizophrenic. He's seeing shit. It's like a key moment because like it's a big moment in the real story. And it's also the moment where Ursula, under the guise of Rosie, comes to give Trevor a hug under the guise that she's a nurse. She knows him because he's the schizophrenic person and all that. And Trevor is just mortified because this person who he's been having, he's been seeing stalking him and like scaring him constantly, finally comes and gives him a fucking hug and no one bats an eye about it, is like, ugh. But yeah, one potential uh, ending is that Rosie helps Trevor uh, find and eliminate the big bad guy controlling it all. And something about him is that he can jump from one body to another, right? And something about him is because he controls you while after you've broken your oath, the his semblance is something that I need to rework because on one hand it drives a lot of the background story or whatever, but on another hand it's a little too powerful for one person's semblance, right? Because at this point it's like I'm thinking about my notes and I'm like, this guy really is just a fucking demigod. Like he can literally just hop from one body to another as long as they break their oath. Right? So like what they have to do, and one alternative though to dealing with that is to lock him up, right? Lock him up in a cell. Could make it a bit more forced. Maybe. I don't know. But like the a huge pivotal point in it is that you can't just kill him because he'll just possess someone else and move on. So one of the huge struggles they could have is finding everyone who has made an oath to him and convincing them to not break an oath or whatever, or finding a way to like break the organization they made their oath to, so that when they go against the organization that's already dismantled, they're no longer breaking an oath. So they can get away from it. like have his conscience forced into the Oathbreaker no matter what he's doing. Oh, that could be a thing too, maybe. I don't know. But one thing that I had in mind is that regardless of what the downsides of his semblance are, and how he manipulates people into perceiving it as either non existent or outright a strength, as opposed to being a weakness, uh, one potential resolution is they first have to find a way to dismantle the organization, right? Once they've officially dismantled the organization, lock him up, have everyone who made an oath to the organization leave. And one specific person, an elderly person, who's already like on his last limbs, is sitting there standing guard. And his only oath that he's at risk of breaking is refusing to help the person that he made his oath to. And then Ursula, as long as Ursula doesn't know about what's going on, Ursula won't necessarily break any of her oaths because her oaths rely on her outright denying or outright working against him. And of course, like, Trevor wants him dead. So that could be like a huge emotional ride where he's like, I need to kill this dude. He deserves to die. And the old man's like, trust me, he does deserve to die. But if you kill him by force, then he'll just hop into my body if I let you do that. And old man wisdom, yeah, exactly. And it's like it's largely inspired by Red versus Blue, the moment where Carolina reaches Leonard Church, and he's just sitting there watching the video, and he's just like he's not even worth wasting a bullet on. It's got like that kind of vibe to the scene where it's like, oh my gosh, you haven't finished Red versus Blue? Oh, whoops. Well, it's got inspiration from Red versus Blue finale. It's a lot of hopelessness, like, I want to rip you apart limb from limb, but it won't help, kind of deal, you know? If I do have that be the resolution to how the the oath possessor guy, the oath breaker possessor guy, I need to come up with a better name for him besides just the big bad fucking child rapist. I need to think of like a name for him. One of a few possible endings. Yeah. But if it does end up being one of the huge resolutions, a potential thing for Ursula is that she could potentially learn about the truth of her mother, her biological mother. If she puts two and two together and realizes that since he's not actually interested in her because he's not her father and he's just a rapist or whatever, opportunistic fucking scum of the earth, then that most likely means that the guy that she dismembered and decapitated is her actual father. And that's like a horrific realization to come to. But also, if that's the case, what about her mother? And that could lead to her uh, going on a tangent after she's broken free of her misguided oaths to look for her mother. Maybe with Trevor's help, they can kill the worm Grim that's that led to her mother's demise, and then maybe after that she can find her mom's remains, as well as whatever final goodbye note she may have written or drawn or what have you. But that is a possibility if you think about it. Another possibility is that Ursula just fully embraces that she's a horrible human being, right? Another possibility is that Ursula doesn't get her eyes opened. She doesn't have all this happen. Another possibility is that she just fully becomes a sadistic psychopath, right? And she just starts like torturing people for the fun of it and stuff, which would be consistent with her actions that she's been forced to do. It could just be a matter of her uh, accepting it. I love when you bump a cat's ear and it does the flick thing that it does. I don't know why. Yeah, you gotta see this. Oh, sorry. So cute. But another possibility is that Ursula and Trevor don't end up working together. That Trevor ends up needing to fight Ursula and kill her to get her out of his life so that he can focus on more important things. That whatever fucked up shit that Ursula is dealing with isn't Trevor's problem. What Trevor cares about is getting closure, right? And so one possibility is that Trevor and Ursula have an epic fight, right? Uh, and it is also theoretically possible that Ursula lures Trevor to do everything in the previous possibility that I mentioned without outright helping him, right? Like she's not confronting him and telling him, "Hey, I need you to kill this guy." She's like intentionally leaving him breadcrumbs, right? And so Trevor could just be of the mind of the notion that she's still like an evil person. And for his sanity, Ursula could go down the path of like playing into that, like playing it off like she hasn't had this big realization and stuff. It could be that like some of Trevor's teammates could learn the truth eventually from like the other nurse lady that Rosie worked with, but like eventually though Trevor and Ursula would probably fight. And the only real way that I could ever see Trevor winning in a one-on-one fight is if Ursula doesn't have her semblance. Like Trevor's fast. But Ursula is an adult who has trained her entire life to kill people. And her semblance involves invading your aura system, weakening you, and creating vulnerabilities that she can kill you with. And she's fast. hella fast. Like, Trevor's strong and all, but like he wouldn't last 2 minutes on his own in a one-on-one against Ursula. Unless Ursula deliberately wasn't using her semblance or literally couldn't. So this also opens the possibility with this redemption arc that she allows Trevor to have a satisfying. No one's going 2 minutes against an angry Russian woman. She's not Russian. But yeah, basically. But like, if she does have this redemption arc, right? If they do dismantle the organization and have the dude starve to death, possess the old guy, and have the old guy's body so deteriorated because he's been drinking himself to death that he just dies without anyone else to possess because no one's made oaths to the old man, right? Like that is a possibility. And if that's a possibility, she can learn of the mother and have this traumatic and emotionally eye-opening thing where she realizes she's a horrible person more than just speculative stuff. She doesn't necessarily need to learn a second semblance, but I think it if she's going for that redemption arc, then or if I'm going for that redemption arc with her, then it's likely she would fight Trevor to the death. Trevor would win because she can't use her thing that her entire fighting style revolves around, her semblance. And also, Trevor's an angry person that she kind of wants to kill him. It could be like a form of atonement for her. It could also be a form of like repayment for all the things that she's done to him in her mind. Regardless, it doesn't really matter. She could give him a huge spiel, but he wouldn't care. He just wants her dead at the end of the day because she's caused him so much pain. And hell, maybe she'd kill his parents to make it even easier for him to kill her. Let me think. If that is the path that I'm going to settle on, 100% the Ruby song Die would 1,000% be the battle theme that would be playing. That is so good. Like, can you imagine Trevor using his semblance to do like a fire breath, latching onto Ursula as he does so, so she gets like a face full of fire, but also they're both propelled into the air. And then as they're falling, he's just like stabbing her a bunch and shit. And then like towards the end of the song, like stabs into her neck and is like using the blast from his tridents. I forgot what trident was called to slow the fall, and eventually, as he lands, just decapitates her, and her head rolls off or bounces off rather. That would be dope as hell, right? Listen, I grew up on God of War, okay? A simple decapitation isn't gonna cut it. It has to be creative, unique, and enticing. Or at the very least, enticing. That's not even mentioning that Trevor would likely have a brother of some kind. I'm not too sure what I would do for his brother. I have a couple ideas, but like a lot of some of the side tangents that Trevor goes on wouldn't make sense unless he had a brother. But I'm torn on whether or not the brother would admire him or shun him. They're two very different sides of the coin. You haven't written nearly this much trauma stuff. Dude, I love torturing my characters. Dude, Trevor has such a short temper, though, as a result of it. Like, he tries to be nice and stuff around other people, but, like, when it comes to things not going his way, he has such a short temper. But, like, another alternative is instead of Ursula having this big redemption arc and having to eventually, uh, let me see if you have any Ruby OCs with remotely this much trauma. There's like if she's not going to go through this big old redemption arc and lure like a bunch of like hunters and huntresses and police officers into taking dismantling their organization and into taking down the worm so she can get to her father or to her mother's remains or whatever. Uh, the alternative is that she accepts that she's a horrible person and embraces it, right? That she just becomes the villainess, right? And that the story becomes less about a victim and then with a dude with like the answer is a resounding no. But like if I do that path, it would be a lot easier in terms of like coming up with the semblance for the dude with the eye quirk because like the possessing dude, I could just make him like a minor thing, like he uh controls you, but he doesn't actually possess you, kind of deal. You know, like he just controls you for a little bit or encourages you to finish your thing to build trauma and shit. But like he's not immortal, right? He can't just body hop if he dies, kind of deal. It would be a lot less like big a threat, and it would still be a horrific villain that needs to go down. It would make more sense in the long run. Uh, and then like Ursula could just be fucked up in the head in general as a result of the trauma that she's dealt with, and she just embraces it or what have you. And instead of it being like a one-on-one redeeming kind of atoning for her bullshit that she's done to Trevor and everyone else, it becomes a overcoming obstacle, right? The other enticing possibility is that she goes from just spying on and torturing Trevor to spying on and torturing all of Trevor's friends. That she goes to mess with all of them too. There's a possibility that she straight up murders the person that is getting too close to Rosie. Actually, one of your characters had a lot of shit happen in a past relationship, a toxic relationship. I believe it. So like there is an alternative ending where like an alternative path where instead of a redemption arc, she's fully evil. She just is evil. And she like kills the other nurse lady and goes down this path of pissing off and scaring all of the people in in Okay, I forgot the name of the fucking school that they go to. What's the fucking school in Ruby? I don't even remember. Vale or some bullshit? Beacon is Beacon. I'm dumb. What kind of name is that? Beacon. What, like a fucking lighthouse or a beacon of hope? Please. Atlas, Haven, or Shade? Anyway, if I take Ursula down the she's evil thing, Vale is the kingdom Beacon is in. Oh, okay. But if I take Ursula down the she's actually evil and not just a victim, she is an evil bitch with a traumatic backstory. But she is evil kind of path. If I do that, then it opens up the room for me to fuck up multiple characters in increasingly or equally horrific ways. Like one person is blind and is inspired by Toph in a little way, in a little bit. Her semblance involves essentially just letting her. We do love fucking up characters. Her semblance involves her being able to sense everything around her through vibrations in the ground. It's literally just Toph's like vibration sense, but that's her semblance. And her fighting style revolves around like spinning shuriken knives or whatever, or like demon wind shurikens, whatever you want to call them, as well as like kunais and other ninja like stuff. What's his name's like Sasuke almost, like a barefooted Sasuke, but she's blind. One thing that she could do to fuck up that person is uh, beat her up a bit and then use her semblance on that person's feet. So the person can't see. And whenever she tries to see, she experiences excruciating pain. And that could cause horrific trauma for that person. Right? And it would eventually wear off. But like that would stick. That would be something that would scare the fuck out of her. Another person is someone who thinks that all life is beautiful and is constantly smiling and celebrating life and stuff. So one thing she could do to fuck that person up is kill someone in a specific way that makes it look like it was a suicide for that person to walk in and see them dangling and have them fucking confused, hurt, and scared as to why anyone would ever take their own life. That could be traumatic for that. And also just because, like, walking in on someone who off themselves is just traumatic in general. Like, there's a lot that I could do with it. Fox Alistair, he's also blind and sees with his semblance. I believe he senses others' auras with it. This person doesn't necessarily sense auras. Also, if he senses people with auras, then how does he sense Grim? I don't know exactly how it works. Alright, fair. One person, I haven't gone too far into him. Alright, fair. Because the creatures of Grim don't have aura. So, like, if he senses with aura, then it's more likely that he's not necessarily a hunter, and it's more likely that instead he's like a paramedic rescue kind of person, right? He drops in, searches for auras to find someone to rescue out of rubble or something, like in a disaster. that could be a cool concept. Like, we don't see a lot of paramedics or rescue people in Ruby. The closest thing we get is people pretending to be paramedics. At least in the good seasons. Season 4 onward basically retconned half of the first 3 seasons. I'm so mad about Yang and Blake's situation. Oh, that's not even mentioning. That's right. They ended up forcing the romance of Bumblebee too. I totally forgot about that. They didn't actually get that far into the series before I lost interest. Why? Well, because Blake. What is Blake's song? Most of the songs for the characters are very like apparent. Like Blake's uh, entire character is that she grew up on the streets, surviving off of scraps and stuff. Then we find out that she actually grew up on an entirely different continent and that she somehow made her way here to Vale. And also, by the way, she didn't actually grow up on the streets. She only lived a portion of her life on the streets, and she actually grew up in a wealthy family. Like, what? Like, what? I don't understand, like, what they're trying to do with Blake. And don't even get me started on Yang. Yang's entire relationship with her mother pisses me off in Volume 5. Volume 5, Yang finally finds her mother after all those years of like searching and not finding her. And it's just like, oh, yeah, I don't care. You're going to take me there. And it's just like, what? And also, it feels very forced that Blake or that Yang's mom has the portal ability when it was clear in volume, was it 1 or 3? I think it was, no, it was volume 1, not 2. It's very clear in the end of volume 1 that she said we need to talk to that person, and it's clear that it's not her mother. Because, like, why would it be? Why would it be someone that she could just talk to whenever she wanted? Why would her mom be able to be talked to whenever she wanted if she's been searching for her mom her entire life? It doesn't make sense. You know? I don't know. Volumes 4 onward, they frustrate me. Like, I was initially a fan of some of the changes they made to Volume 4 because, like, they just witnessed, like, the destruction of a town and are, like, they're taking things slowly and all that, and it's, like, a huge shift and stuff. But then Volume 5 didn't pick back up the pace, and Volume 6 just further solidified how dull the fight scenes were. Don't even get me started on that guy who wants to kill Ozpin. Hazel? Is that his name? I don't even remember. I just know he screams a lot whenever he sees Ozpin, and then any other time he's like very calm and collected. Which, by the way, there's no way that Ozpin told that was Hazel Reinhardt. Okay. By the way, there's no way that Ozpin told the kid properly or the truth about what happened to Hazel's kid. I think I think that Ozpin is a pedophile and that they had something a little more serious than merely dying in combat. Because otherwise, why would this guy who's calm, collected about all this, finding peaceful solutions to everything, get so irrationally angry about that and say, she was a child? Like he specifically exaggerates the she was a child factor. Which, if it was just a kid who went to like uh Beacon Academy, no, it's not just a child. They're practically an adult. They're like high schoolers. Unless unless it wasn't actually a kid who went to Beacon and was actually something much worse entirely. And Ozpin is lying to them. You know? But even then, there's still a lot more inconsistencies that don't make sense. Like, to give you an idea, right? What's the episode that what's the episode called where the dude tells uh Salem that Ozpin is back? Well, what's that episode called? I actually don't know. Exactly. That's how forgettable the series is. Uh Ruby, isn't it like volume 5? No, it's volume 6. Salem Scream or what have you. Alright, that's fair. But like there's a moment in that episode where like it's right after the season 5 finale. Season 5 pisses me off. There's a lot of potential there, right? Like what's his face? The guy that was interested in Blake, like getting totally owned. That's fine. I don't know why a lot of people were mad about that. Like, we only ever saw him in 2 fights, and in both of those fights, they were fights that he was ultra giga prepared for. Adam, right, Adam. But like, if you think about it, like, we didn't really see a whole lot of him. So it makes sense that, like, sure, Blake perceives him as this cool dude or whatever, this super strong dude. But then, like, it would make sense that, like, you see him, his true colors, and he's not that. And that's what I thought at first. But then I saw in later seasons that, like, freaking, they started changing, yeah, exactly. Wait, hold up. That's also another thing. I don't think that he was prepared to fight Blake because if he was, he would have recognized that Yang is also possibly gonna be there, or better yet, Weiss and or Ruby. Yeah, and there's also that Blake's fighting style change. The thing about that fight that frustrates me, it isn't that Adam dies. It's that they force Blake and Yang to kiss, which came completely out of left field. Which, like, if you were just watching the series and then got to that episode just threw that kiss out of fucking nowhere. That was volume 9? I could have sworn that was volume 7. This shows how little I pay attention to the show. Because I just don't care anymore. But, like, it's just so weird. So weird. Whatever happened to, the monkey faunus? Sun. I remembered his name. I'm bad with names, if you can't tell. There was definitely foreshadowing. There was, like, I didn't actually see volumes 7 and 8, so maybe there was, and I'm just dumb. But, like, in the first 5 seasons, there was no foreshadowing of it. If anything, there was foreshadowing of Sun having a relationship with Blake. I don't know, it feels a lot like they're just throwing things to the wall to make it to appease the fandom. Also, can I just say, Salem screaming and shattering glass has no impact on me emotionally. Sexuality. Alright, so first of all, Frogo, sexuality is not the same as romantic attraction. Second of all, okay, cool, I guess. Who am I to say that anything about that? But that's also another reason why I don't really like to touch the main characters of a story whenever I am inspired to create fandoms. But like there's a scene where like Salem makes super creepy dark hands grab the muscle guy. What was his name? Fucking you told me earlier. Let me scroll to find it. Hazel. To grab Hazel when Hazel was trying to apologize for someone else. Right? And it's like this big fucked up thing where it's like, oh, Salem's not a motherly figure. Okay, well, fuck me sideways then, right? What is Salem's deal? Is she just insane? And then when she learns about Ozpin coming back, she just demands everyone leaves and screams and all the glass shatters and they make this big dramatic thing and I'm just like, I literally could not give a shit about you screaming so loud that glass shatters. I'm more freaked out about the fucking arms you grabbed your own person. Listen, that would have been a cool twist though. That like the main villain cares about her subordinates and treats them like a mother would her children. That would have been cool. But no. I don't know. It's just like the point is the point that I'm trying to make, if you can't tell, her entire thing is that she's only using them to get to husband. Yeah, I realize that. My frustrating thing for me though is what I'm kind of alluding to this entire rant about Ruby is that it's fascinating. It makes me want to get invested and interested in it, but it's just a lot of disappointments. There's just something about all of it is disappointing. A lot of inconsistent. Why that made me laugh. Mm, sorry, I saw that and I had to click. I couldn't. Volume 6 is off to a good start based on this video alone. Fuck. But I don't know. I'm just the more I learn, and all of that isn't even mentioning the company of Rooster Teeth itself and how scummy it is. But there's more than enough videos for you to look up on that alone that you don't need me talking about that. Also, it's like almost 6 a.m. I'm a professional yapper. Did you know that? I need to go to bed because, like, I got work tomorrow. I actually do need to go to bed. Who should I raid? Okay, so if you're just gonna lurk and not actually be active, then we're gonna raid the Bunny Rescue funding stream. Watch as many ads as you can here because every ad goes towards a bunny rescue. Night night. Thank you for accompanying me in my bullshit. I will say though, regardless of my thoughts on the show itself, the soundtrack of RWBY and the songs of RWBY are such bangers. I love the song "Die." I love the song "Armed and Ready." I love the is that the second or the third variant of the Mirror Mirror song. I think it's the third one, actually. So good.
Hey there, it's Josh.